Yeah, we got a great show here. Want to finish the week strong, and Coach O got a question here. We got to some of his other comments here, but this is kind of how I wanted to open the show. He was asked about the Week 1 game against UCLA, so let's cut to that real quick, and that'll lead into our show topic here.
Yeah, I've got two. Ed Daniels wanted me to ask you. The Texas game and the Miami game were so important to getting off to a good start in 18-19. How important does that make the UCLA game?
You know, I look at it the same way. I haven't talked to the team about it. It's on the road, unknown team. We're an unknown team. We know what we have, but we got to go out and prove it. We got to be hungry, and it's going to be challenging. It's going to be at their house. They have some great athletes on their football team. It's the first time we've gone out to Los Angeles with our football team, so it's going to have to be a business trip. There's going to be some obstacles that we have to overcome during the game. Obviously, it's our first game together. They'll play the game. It's the first time we play with our quarterback. We have to take care of the football, but I think we'll be ready. Our guys are going to be fired up, ready to go.
All right, Shane. So I really wanted to play that clip because it gave me this inspiration for this idea, but I have went down the entire SEC list of all 14 teams, and I'm ready to name the most important game on the schedule the first month of the season. How's that sound?
Oh, man, this is what I signed up for, Mike. Let's roll with it.
Okay, so no doubt, we got to go with what Coach O said right there. I think he's absolutely right. Week 1 on the road at UCLA, and I know at the end of the month they play Mississippi State. Of course, that'll be far more important when you're talking impact on the SEC schedule. But, just given the way last season went for LSU, I know it finished on a strong note, but that's got to carry over to the season opener. And, I don't want to compare this. It's not exactly like Kevin Sumlin at the end of his tenure there at A&M, but, of course, they went on the road to UCLA, and I believe it was like the biggest comeback ever. The Bruins won in the fourth quarter, and it was just, that was the end. They didn't fire Kevin Sumlin that weekend, but they might as well have because I believe they fired him about a month, two later. So not saying that Coach O is going to lose his job if he loses his game, but there's not really anyone on the hot seat, if you ask me, in the SEC. But if Coach O were to find a way for LSU to lose this opener, I think he's the prime candidate to be on that hot seat in the SEC, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier hit the nail on the head. It's just a team that last year started out so bad, and once you go into a next season, it's like, does it carry over? Because if it carries over, a slow start, it's understandable when you have COVID and it's all SEC scheduling, but this is a game you're supposed to win, and it's a game that you're not supposed to have any problems with. So the fact that you go out and you do, then there's going to be a lot of people, and myself included, going to be talking about Coach O potentially on a hot seat. And I know that's crazy coming off 2 years ago, a national championship, but that's the expectations in Baton Rouge right now.
Yeah, the Coach O haters are already out there comparing him to Gene Chizik. So we've got to squash that immediately week 1 against UCLA. Now, Alabama, their biggest game of the opening month, in my opinion. We're all excited about the opener there in Miami, but we also know the Crimson Tide are going to beat the hell out of the Hurricanes. So for me, it's week 3 on the road against the Florida Gators. I think Dan Mullen's squad is the ultimate wild card this year in the SEC. So thoughts on that? Alabama's biggest game there, and I certainly think it's Florida's biggest game as well. Hosting Alabama, that's an opportunity to, everybody's picking Georgia in the East. If somehow Florida finds a way to pull off the miracle upset here at home in the Swamp, that narrative changes in a hurry. So I think for both these teams, that's an easy answer. Alabama at Florida, week 3. What are your thoughts on that?
So you're picking both Alabama, both Florida on this one right here. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because it's also the first road game for Bryce Young, so we got to see what this guy can do in a hostile environment.
Man, I know it's going to sound like a lot of work, Mike, but not a lot of people got their schedules pulled up. Is there any way you could tell me? Because a lot of people are first thing are saying, "What about the Iron Bowl?" But we're talking about the month of September here,
right?
So we're talking 3-4 games. So can you read the other ones that are on Alabama's list here?
Yeah, absolutely. And the best place to get your schedule, if you don't have one there, thatsecpodcast.com. Head on over. We got every team schedule. We got the entire SEC schedule all in one convenient location. But, of course, Alabama opens the season in Atlanta against Miami on a neutral field. And then week 2, Mercer. Week 3 is the Florida game at Florida, of course. And then week 4, they host Southern Miss. So, again, you're kind of going with Miami or Florida. And if you're telling me you picking Miami or Florida on a neutral field, I'll take Florida by about 3 touchdowns. And the fact that this game is in the Swamp makes it all the more difficult for the Crimson Tide, I think.
And what else does Florida have?
Florida, so they opened the season, of course, against FAU at home. Week 2, Florida has this is interesting. They go on the road, South Florida. It's not often South Florida gets to host an SEC team. And then week 4, Shane, Tennessee in the Swamp. So, yeah, I think for Florida, it's no question it's got to be Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because Florida Gators want to act like they're there, man.
Right.
And to act like you're there, you got to compete against teams like Alabama. So this is huge for both programs.
All right, Arkansas, Shane, week 2. I think this is a layup. I don't know what you think, but night game already announced, ESPN national television, the Texas Longhorns rolling into Fayetteville. So much attention on this game, and that was before it was announced Texas was heading to the SEC. But in so many ways, this is a statement game for Sam Pittman and his program. Not saying that, I would consider it an upset if Texas won that game, but according to the betting line, and if you talk to the Longhorns, they think this is going to be an easy W. So, it's not going to determine, the fate of Sam Pittman's program here, but I think it's huge for the season. And I think you can make the case, the final game there for Arkansas to start the month is Texas A&M, and I know that's a huge game. That's been a thorn in their side, but I guess the way I look at it is, if you lose to Texas, I don't think you're beating Texas A&M. I just don't. Yeah. I don't think you're of that caliber. But if you find a way to win at home against Texas, which I think they will, that gives you a ton of momentum heading into that A&M game, to where maybe you can pull the upset in that one.
Right. Yeah, and obviously, I think I may have went with the Aggies here a couple of years ago, and you think with Texas coming into town, they ain't going to make a big deal of this. This is going to be a massive game. Don't be surprised if game day's not there. What's Arkansas leading up to this? What's their schedule?
So week 1, they've got a cupcake. They've got Rice at home.
Yeah.
And then it's the Texas game.
Oh, my God. So they're going to be undefeated. Don't be surprised if game day's not there, making a big deal of this, because this is a glimpse of the future. So, I mean, a lot riding on it. Yes, this is a big one. Marquee game.
Now, Auburn, for me, it's got to be week 3, on the road at Penn State. Everybody and their mother outside of Auburn fans are going to be picking Penn State to win this game. And, even myself included, I've been down on Auburn all off season. That changes in a heartbeat. If you go on the road, you beat old James Franklin on the road. They've already announced it's a whiteout game, so they're getting excited for this. It's very rare that a Big Ten team gets to host an SEC team. So I don't think there's any question here. It's got to be Penn State week 3 on the road for Auburn. So Auburn, they open against Arkansas U, or so. It's not Arkansas. It's kind of weird how on our site it's laid out. Week 2 is Alcorn State, and then Penn State, and then final week Georgia State. So I mean,
oh yeah, okay, not even close. All right, yeah, Penn State definitely.
All right, how about this? Ole Miss. This was a tricky one for me. We all anticipate them to smoke Louisville in the opener there in Atlanta, but the rest of the month here, they don't have much. Austin Peay is their week 2 game, and then they have Tulane week 3, and then they get a bye week the final month. So it's got to be Louisville here, don't you think?
Absolutely. But did you see the Tulane grocery store? The wave's coming, baby. So no, definitely going to be Louisville on this one.
All right, how about Mississippi State? This was, you want to talk about a tricky schedule coming out the gate. Mississippi State may have the toughest schedule in the SEC if you just want to talk about no cupcakes here. They open the season against Louisiana Tech, which is, a decent team. They'll beat the hell out of them, but still, that's a decent game. Second week of the season, NC State, and then third week at Memphis. So these are all interesting games, but for me, it's got to be the one that closes out the month, LSU. You're getting them at home. You beat them last year. Everybody, again, it doesn't matter what happened last year. Everybody's going to be picking LSU to win this game. Here's your opportunity to build some momentum going into the SEC stretch. And so I got to go LSU is the biggest game here for Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think so too. But that Memphis game's I think it's a little bit, I don't know, it hits harder for some of those folks that live there because there's there's a three-way tie between Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Memphis. It seems like these guys are trying to decide which university to go to, and this is how you separate is just smoking them. So that's another one that I've got my eyebrows raised, but I think you're right. Just kind of a revenge game. We just talked about LSU. That's going to be a big game.
Now, Texas A&M, I think this was an easy one. They opened the season here against Kent State. Come on, get out of here. They played Colorado, a little bit tricky. Week 2, that's in Denver on a neutral. Well, they're going to call it a neutral field, but you got to imagine it's probably more Colorado people. New Mexico, week 3. And then so their big game the first month. And this is why a lot of people like the Aggies because, they're going to start 3-0 basically guaranteed. To close out the month, they got Arkansas and Jerry World. So for me, it's got to be Arkansas.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously, I do like the first game because they got some. I think they're going to be on a run, man. I think this is a national championship run if the stars align, and that starts week 1 and just kind of setting that tempo. But I'm with you. Closing out the month, it's going to be your toughest opponent.
Now we already hit on Florida that hosting Alabama week 3, so. Again, another easy one, Georgia. I don't really care who's on the schedule, Shane. The most important game's that opener against Clemson in Charlotte because we're going to find out a lot about both programs here facing a team that's ranked currently, I believe, number 2 in the nation, Georgia versus Clemson. That's got to be the answer, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal, Mike. This is the year for the Georgia Bulldogs, apparently. Supposedly, that's the rumor. And it starts by beating Clemson and shutting them up so we don't have to hear them, complain about not being in a college football playoff at the end of the year. This one's on you, Bulldogs.
Now, these next two, I'm just grouping them together, Shane, because I think you got to pick each other here. Kentucky, Missouri, biggest game, the first month of the season is the same answer. It's week 2 when Missouri comes to Kentucky. That is the only SEC game, I believe, on the docket that weekend in the SEC. Kentucky opens with ULM. Missouri opens with Central Michigan. And then the following week, they both Kentucky's got Chattanooga. Missouri's got SEMO, Southeast Missouri. I mean, give me a break here. These seasons, I don't want to say they're completely defined by this week 2 game, but man, that was like a crossroads game last year where Kentucky dropped it, and all off season, everybody I talked to associated with Kentucky, they say that was the most devastating loss of the season. That's kind of where the season just kind of went downhill, and Mark Stoops and all the momentum they have at Kentucky, they fall to Missouri for the second year in a row. I think you have to jump Missouri as a better program than Kentucky, and I don't necessarily think that's the case as I'm saying this. But how can you argue it if Missouri in their first 2 years with they're under Connor Bazelak and Eli Drinkwitz, if they go 2-0 against Mark Stoops, I don't see how you can argue it any other way, despite all the progress Kentucky has made in the recent seasons. So this game is absolutely huge, hosting Missouri for Kentucky week 2, don't you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, it sets the tone in the East because we know it's a Florida-Georgia game, but there's always that third team that gives somebody a fit in the East. And who's it going to be? It's going to be one of these two programs, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Now, here was a tricky one, Shane. South Carolina, a lot of different answers. Obviously, the Eastern Illinois week 1 is, normally, it is a joke. This is a cupcake. They're going to beat the hell out of them, but it's still an important game because we don't know what we're getting from the Gamecocks. Right. And we don't know what we're getting from Shane Beamer, but I couldn't, in good conscience, pick that game. Week 3, you're playing Georgia. That's that has historically been a really good series, but everybody's picking Georgia to win the East. Hardly anyone is picking South Carolina to do anything but finish 5th or 6th in the East. So couldn't pick that game either. Week 4 is epic for South Carolina. They host Kentucky. Could easily make the case for that one, but yeah. I think the answer is week 2, Shane. Which South Carolina goes on the road to East Carolina. Mm-hmm. And before you say, whoa. This is a game where, again, we anticipate South Carolina is going to beat the hell out of Eastern Carolina, and they should, and they probably will. But these are the games that trip you up, and maybe you're, I don't want to say ill-prepared because we know they'll come prepared, but, who knows? This is the type of game where, if you drop it, all that momentum you built all offseason comes to a screeching halt. You got to go on the road. It's such a weird game. It's almost like a trap game there. You got to take care of business against East Carolina and keep this momentum going. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I haven't worried about the Pirates since the 1700s.
So you going with the Kentucky game?
Yeah, I think because that's always such a good game. That one, but I'm going to tell you, Mike, even less opponent, but week 1, no quarterback. What's the South Carolina offense? What's the defense going to look like? There's just so many question marks. Shane Beamer's first. I want to do week 1 just to see what the program looks like. So if I'm going out of all 4 of them, obviously, Georgia's going to be a huge game, but let's be real, Mike. It's week 1 for me. I want to see what kind of product we actually have with these Gamecocks.
I got you. Yeah, no, I wouldn't even argue with that. So Tennessee, Shane, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Of course, they open against Bowling Green. That'll, all indications are Bowling Green's a complete joke, so I couldn't go with that one. Yeah. They do play Florida week 4, and we know historically that's been such a great game, but given the fact that the Gators own the Vols, I couldn't pick that one. I think the biggest game for Tennessee, week 2, you're hosting Pitt. And I don't know, to me, Shane, this just feels like, every 3-4 years we got a new Tennessee coach. And it seems like there's a game early in their career that, it's unfair to say defines it, but you either get the fan base rallied behind you or they just completely are like, what the hell? This guy can't coach. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm already seeing it right here. Tennessee fans got no respect for Pitt, nor should they. I don't even know what league they're in anymore. Are they in the ACC? Are they in the Big East? I don't know, but who cares? You cannot let a team like that come into Neyland Stadium and walk out with a W. If Josh Heupel is as good a coach as they say he is, he'll find a way to coach up the Vols to get this win. I think week 2 is just huge for the Vols.
I think it's huge because it's going to be a game that they have to make a bowl, man. I think Tennessee's going to be a bubble team. I expecting good things from them, but this isn't a program you can go ahead and circle wins and losses and, anticipate the game against the Gators. This is when you got to go week to week. I would almost circle Bowling Green to see what they're going to do, but I'm with you. The Johnny Majors Bowl, I think this thing's been dubbed. Pitt is a big one. We've got to have that game if we're going to play. We're going to play in the off season.
Now, last but not least here, Vanderbilt. This was a tricky one for me. Could go many different ways. They opened the season at home against ETSU. Should beat the hell out of them. Week 3, they host Stanford. Could maybe go with that one. And then week 4, they host Georgia. So all these games, they got their story points. But for me, it's got to be week 2. They go on the road to Colorado State. And I know Colorado State is, we don't really respect them on this show, but that's why Vanderbilt's got to go out there and take care of business, set the tone, say, I think under Derek Mason, this is a game you lose. And this is, you got to set the tone. I don't care who's on your roster, saying this is a new Vanderbilt. We're not going to be the same old, sad sacks that lose to freaking Colorado State. I think week 2, I think that game is huge for the Commodores. What do you think?
What was week 1?
Week 1, they got ETSU at home.
Man, I could argue that one, Mike. I just think this is another program. Like you said, they're creating a new story.
Right.
This is a new chapter for the Vanderbilt Commodores, and I think I'm going to go week 1. I know ETSU is a lesser program, and I don't want to say that's my neighbors over here. I'm not bashing them or anything like that, but this is a team that, if you are in the SEC, should not be competition. So I think Vanderbilt needs to come out and just, I don't know, set their tone, set the pace of what's Vanderbilt going to look like in the future. So give me week 1 ETSU.
Well, Shay, just sitting here spieling about these games gets me fired up, gets the blood going here, and just gives you an indication of what we've got the next month or so coming our way. You know what?
That's right, man. We're not talking about 4 or 5 months from now. We're talking about here in a couple of weeks, these boys are going to face off. So I love it.